Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon. Trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is home ownership consultant Ross Kay from the wealthyhomeowner.ca, Canada's authority on home ownership. Welcome back to the show, Ross.
Thanks for having me back on, Jim.
Ross, since our last show, all 6 Canadian big banks and all big credit unions have announced Canada hit record home sales in 2020. A listener asked, how did Canadians buy more homes during COVID and a lockdown than any time in history? Did we really?
No, you know better than that, Jim. The Canadian Real Estate Association, they claim that they set a record, the same as they've claimed in other years that they set a record that they didn't set. And that's where most people are confused. They're confused because what the Canadian Real Estate Association releases, the bank economists and the credit union guys all believe it to be true. And it's because they simply don't read the press release that the Canadian Real Estate Association releases. I'm sitting here as I'm talking to you, Jim. I thought about this today in the lead up to today's show. I have three large monitors in front of me. I used to have a large monitor and a series of small monitors attached to it. I won't get into the details. I'm sitting with 3 monitors here today, 3 different computers running one on each monitor, and I have a total of 15 windows open, 15 windows on those 3 screens. I have live access to every piece of housing data you could possibly dream of having when you're commenting on the housing market. And in the center of my screen, because of today's show, I have the Canadian press release that they issued on January the 15th, the one that was cited by the big Canadian banks, the credit unions, and every single housing analyst in Canada. Every single housing analyst you hear anywhere, TV, YouTube, whatever you see them, they're all the same. They made the exact same statement that Canadian home sales hit a record in the middle of a pandemic and a national lockdown. So here's what I would say to your listeners. Way back, I'm going to use my friendly giant scenario here, Jim. I'm going to call the friendly giant, the friendly history giant of the Canadian Real Estate Association stat. In December of 2007, if you looked at the 12 reports that had been released in that year from the Canadian Real Estate Association and totaled each of those numbers up to get to the year end, it would have been 522,523. 13 years ago, the Canadian Real Estate Association reported 522,523. If you did the same thing last year, you added them up, you would have, just on what the Canadian Real Estate Association told you, you would have had 548,864. Wow. That sounds like it's about 26,000 more, Ross. So surely they set a record. Now, listen, folks, I'm only talking 26,000 sales. I know it sounds like it's a big number. I know that it's been 13 years, and that Canada is a hugely larger country today than it was way back in 2007. But I also need to tell you what the Canadian Real Estate Association told you. Because if you read the report that they released, these are their words. Now, you've got to skip through the first headline, you got to skip through the summary, and you've got to read the first page of the report. And here's what it says. Home sales recorded over Canadian MLS systems jumped 7.2% between November and December to set another all-time record. It then went on to say seasonally adjusted activity was running at an annualized pace of 714,516 units. The first time on record that the monthly sales at a seasonally adjusted annual rate topped over 700,000. Now remember, folks, the actual numbers reported this year for 2020 were 544,000 and peanuts. Back in 2007, it was 522,000 in peanuts. We're talking 548 to 522, 26,000 difference. Now, what is the difference between what the Canadian Real Estate Association was recording over the MLS systems in 2020 that they weren't recording back in 2007? Well, let me tell you, folks. Back in 2007, the Canadian Real Estate Association was not reporting for sale by owners. In other words, property guys could not put their listings on MLS no matter what they did. Comfree, which is now called Purple Bricks, could not put their listings on Realtor.ca no matter what they did. But in 2020, they could do it for $1. Those for sale by owner companies could post for sale by owner listings on Realtor.ca in the thousands for $1. Now, the Canadian Real Estate Association's own rules dictate that one member of the association cannot criticize another member of the association. In other words, when you hear a realtor on television insulting the intelligence or the integrity of a fellow realtor, they are outright ignoring the Code of Ethics and the MLS rules and regulations. They are themselves unethical simply by the definition of the rules that they have agreed to follow. Unethical. They're so unethical you should never consider dealing with them because you can't trust them. Unless you want to believe they're willing to break the rules to tell you one story, and they're not willing to break the rules to pull one over on you in the meantime. I don't believe that. If it walks like a duck, it's a duck. What we have here is, let's say that those two private for sale companies simply are trading homes the way that they always traded homes. In other words, if I look on Realtor.ca today, I know there's around 5,000 listings that are for sale by owner. Now, when I say that, folks, you have to understand there are only around 85,000 individual homes actually for sale on cooperative listing services across Canada today. Okay? You may get a different count when you pull up listing websites, but that's because one listing can be listed 3 times, in some cases 5 times. Most homes are only listed once. They'll be listed multiple times, but they'll only be ever counted at one time. But for a small percentage of the homes, they will be counted multiple times when you look at these listing websites. What I'm telling you is there are around 85,000 unique existing homes for sale on MLS systems across Canada today. For sale by owners carry about 5,000 of that. Now, if you took 5,000 out of 85,000, that's worth what? About 6.5%? There is the difference right there that you're looking for. You're looking for a record that isn't a record because the Canadian Real Estate Association is reporting home sales recorded over Canadian MLS systems. They're not reporting Canadian home sales. It's 2 totally different things. They also aren't mentioning the word existing. Although all the Canadian banks and all of the credit unions and all of the housing analysts, all of the people that you see on television, inadvertently at times call it resale or existing homes. Their headlines are filled with this nonsense. Existing home sales hit record in 2020. You'll notice the Canadian Real Estate Association never calls them existing home sales. Now, I'll tell you, back in 2007, they probably could have had a legitimacy to that comment, existing home sales. Because you know something, folks, back in 2007, it would cost a builder around between 3 and 4% commission to post their home on Realtor.ca, to post their home on a cooperative listing service across Canada. So builders would not do it. Builders are not stupid people. They're good business people. They don't list their homes at ridiculous commission rates. They simply offer them to the public. And because they're brand new homes, the builders really don't need the realtors at all. That's why builders, up until just the last few years in most provinces, had their own sales team who weren't actually licensed to sell real estate. It's only the real estate lobbying community that has forced the builders to, in most provinces now, to use a realtor at their local sales trailer. But in 2007, that was not the case. So now you also have to look at what share of sales in 2020, when a builder could put their home on the local cooperative listing service for $1 commission, were posted throughout all 2020. The Canadian Real Estate Association never talks about that. They don't talk about it at all. And when they use the term resale, it's never in direct, in the same sentence where the actual statistic is, or data point is being discussed. When we drill down in the Canadian report, we see that for 2020 as a whole, this is what they tell people. 551,392 homes traded hands over Canadian MLS systems. Now, if you go back and collect the 12 reports from the year and you add up those 12 numbers, it's not going to add up to 551,392. It's going to add up to 548,864. But magically, they come up with another 3,000 sales right then. I don't know why they did that. So why did they do it? So that they could say it's over 7% gain? Is that why they really wanted to be able to say that there was a 17% year-over gain in price? I don't know. All I'm telling you is, go look at the numbers and add them up. I've just told you how in 2007, when Canada was a way smaller country, when there was literally millions less homes in the country, they still reported 522,000+. They weren't counting for sale by owners, and new home builders were not listing on the MLS like they are in 2020, and they will be in 2021. That's why the Canadian Real Estate Association doesn't say in their paperwork that they produce for the press in the first line that Canadian resale homes hit this number. They say instead, home sales recorded over Canadian MLS systems. If I am a Toyota dealer and I want to get a record sales next year, and I believe that nobody is going to fact check me, that I have been able to use terminology and twist the words and use the marketing strata and hide the data and fool everybody for the last 10 years into not understanding I'm going to count my Lexus division this year, and I announce a record. I say the Toyota Motor Company sold more homes this year than it did last year, than it did 13 years ago, when we can go back into the 1980s for the sake of the argument, because Lexus didn't exist then. When the Lexus division didn't even exist, that's how we hit a record. You would go to jail if you made those statements. If your stock was being traded on the stock exchange and you counted something that you never counted before and you didn't disclose it in your filings, you would be sued. The CEO would be in jail. Well, it may not be jail, but they're certainly going to be charged for fraud. They're going to certainly lose their license. They're going to lose their job. The board of directors is going to fire them, even though the board of governors itself may have been complicit in the fraud that's being perpetuated. And that's what we're having here. In order for Canadian resale homes to have set a record in 2020, you would have needed to add it for sale by owners back in 2007. You would have had to add the brand new non-existing homes from builders in 2007, like you did in 2020. The Canadian real estate does not say existing home sales because they count non-existing homes. They count homes that are not even built, homes that are on the plans of a builder. There's a possibility in a lot of these plans, permits are not even existing, but they're counting. And then they throw this mumbo-jumbo in the way they present the information. The bigger question really for this listener is this. Why do they do this? Why does the Canadian Real Estate Association feel the need that they have to create a false record? Why do they feel the need that they can't explain to people, oh, we didn't count for sale by owners prior to 2013, and between 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, with each progressive year, more and more for sale by owners were posted on our site? Because the for sale by owner companies found loopholes in how to get their listings on legally onto our cooperative listing services. Why did they not say house prices in London was the house price increase recorded in London, Ontario between April and December of 2020 had nothing to do with existing homes? Because what you see, folks, is there's an entire subdivision in the north part of London, Ontario, where new home builders list their homes on the MLS. That means homes, a quality of homes so expensive that they don't even exist in the rest of London, were being built there. And what happened there is a buyer, possibly from Guelph, possibly from Burlington, possibly from Toronto, sold their $1 million property there and moved out to London and bought a $700,000 home. It wasn't an existing home. In many cases, the home didn't even exist. It was a home on paper. But in that local real estate environment, the new home builders have listed onto the MLS because they only have to pay $1. Calgary is another example. Everybody says, why didn't Calgary average price drop as much as what the average homeowner was experiencing? Well, that's because Calgary has new builders who've listed on their MLS system there. We're not going to get into when the problem that happened when the for sale by owners came on in 2013, and Comfrey decided that they would post all of the listings for Alberta through the Calgary Real Estate Board, which in turn the Calgary Real Estate Board counted as a record, and they didn't tell anybody that they were counting homes from Edmonton. The problem that this listener has is these bank that economists have and these credit unions have, and that is that they listen to the Canadian Real Estate Association, but they don't read the paperwork. The paperwork says home sales recorded over Canadian MLS systems. I will also tell your listener this. If you go to the Canadian Real Estate social media accounts, you are going to find a huge change took place in December. A huge change took place. And that's because they started to use this term, MLS home sales. If you check the posts in November for the same municipality, and then you check the posts for the same municipality in December, all of a sudden in December, they added MLS home sales. It used to just say home sales. Now it says MLS. Why do you think that happened? Could it be that Central Mortgage and Housing Corporation found out that this was true, and Central Mortgage and Housing Corporation 2 years ago changed their charts to remove the word resale and put MLS? And now, 2 years later, as we're ready to enter 2021, they want to get rid of that legacy from the Canadian Real Estate Association? I guess we'll find out in January when they release their numbers. What I'll tell your listeners is this. In an apples to apples comparison, where I'm counting existing homes that exist, okay, that homes that exist. It could even be a brand new home, but it exists. And I'm counting houses that are not for sale by owner. There were more sales in 2007. I will also tell your listeners that there were more sales in 2016. Now, your listeners in British Columbia say, oh, that makes more sense. Yeah, 2016 was busier out here. That's right, folks, because you see, the multiplicity of interboarding real estate listings increased in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020. It increased with each of those years. That meant in the GTA in Toronto, a house that was listed in Oakville would be on 3 or 4 different real estate boards. A home that was listed in Burlington would be on 3 or 4 different real estate boards. The Canadian Real Estate Association already tried to do a cover-up in this way back in 2013. You can go check the old Huffington Post article out. They said, oh, no. We're not counting it. We know you can see it 5 and 6 times, but we're not counting it that many times. Well, now they've tried to prune that. The problem with the Canadian Real Estate Association is they have no power in this country. The only power they have is the power over you. They have no power over the real estate agents. The power over the real estate agents happens with a centrist in Quebec, which is the provincial trade association, which is why if you check the Canadian Real Estate Association reports, every place it's Quebec, there's a star, asterisk, or warning, or this metric is not the same in Quebec as it everywhere else, because centrist doesn't need the Canadian Real Estate Association. Now, I will also tell you that if you're in British Columbia, you better start panicking, because guess who's running your MLS portal on for your realtors in British Columbia? That's right, folks. It's centrist from Quebec. The same portal that is used in Quebec is being used in British Columbia, because these two bodies want to supersede Realtor.ca. They didn't tell you that, did they? In British Columbia, none of your realtors have told you that, but this is the truth. You can go check it out yourself. Go to Realty Link, and you'll see that you have the option also of checking out Quebec listings. Now, you better do it quick, because after this show, expect changes to happen, as it usually does, because clearly they listen to this show, or they listen to the commentary that my firm gives out about these organizations. So in Quebec, in British Columbia, the British Columbia Real Estate Association wants to have nothing to do with Korea. They use Korea only because they have to, because Korea has Realtor.ca. They want that power to go back to the British Columbia Real Estate Association. That's why the real estate boards, British Columbia Real Estate Association, has tried to get all the regional real estate boards to post on one MLS system in British Columbia. In other words, instead of having 6 or 7 different regional MLS systems, the British Columbia Real Estate Association says, hey, we can give you cost savings if we all share one MLS system. Well, luckily, the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board wasn't stupid enough to fall for that old game, a game that has been used against real estate boards across Canada for over 15 years. The Fraser Valley Real Estate Board refused to do it. Why? You can go right now on Realty Link out in British Columbia, and you can't see every real estate board in British Columbia on it. Why? If you go to Alberta, if you go to AREA, the Alberta Real Estate Association's website, you see that they talk about stats from some areas in Alberta, most areas in Alberta, but not all areas. Why? Because the local real estate board wants to maintain control over the talking points for their city. In Toronto, it's the Toronto Real Estate Board is as powerful as the entire real estate board of Quebec. What the Toronto Real Estate Board does is they manipulate the system so badly, and they've got Korea under their thumb so easily, because Korea needs their membership dollars, that they get the Canadian Real Estate Association to do whatever the Toronto Real Estate Board wants. So when the Toronto Real Estate Board says, hey, Burlington, Ontario had 3,500 sales last year, and the Hamilton Realtors Association says, hey, Burlington only had 3,000 sales last year, and the Oakville Milton Real Estate Board says, hey, Burlington only had 500 sales last year, there's nobody arguing about those 3 different numbers. Your bank economists didn't tell you that. Your credit unions didn't tell you that. I mean, I'm looking at Brian Yu out of Central One in Alberta, and I just saw today he puts record real estate sales in Canada. No, it's a lie. Folks, it is a fraudulent statement by a major Canadian lender. He's believing the Canadian Real Estate Association. And what the Canadian Real Estate Association is doing is they're not reporting Canadian existing home sales. They're not reporting Canadian home sales. They're not reporting non-for sale by owner home sales. What they're reporting is home sales recorded over Canadian MLS systems, which means if there's any piece of paper that we can find that was put through our MLS system, even if it was put through more than one system, even if it's something we never counted before, we're going to count it. Why? So we can say we had a record. So we can tell you things are better than what they are. So we can tell you during a lockdown, a pandemic, a time of falling wealth in this country, because we're unemployed. Canadians are unemployed. I don't care what the government gives you. That is future money. You are unemployed. Housing prices are up 17%. And if you believe that, folks, I encourage you to go back to the latest release from the Canadian Real Estate Association and read the very first line that they state. Home sales recorded over Canadian MLS systems. They don't say home sales in Canada. They don't say existing home sales. They don't say the record was set equal to the numbers that we counted in previous years. And then they immediately go on and tell you, oh no, but seasonally adjusted, it's 700,000 sales. Want to know something, folks? Combined, new homes and existing homes in total in Canada in 2020 didn't total 714. And new homes, folks, the 200,000 that got built, that's what I'm talking about. You can add those up with the number of existing homes that sold in using the exact same terms as 2007, and that record wasn't set either. But banks and credit unions have all told you that is not true.
We'll have more with Ross Kay right after this.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlan, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Value from success, growth, and discovery. Golden Arrow Resources is a well-funded gold-copper exploration company with proven management and prospective properties in Chile, Argentina, and Paraguay. Golden Arrow trades on the Toronto Venture Exchange, symbol GRG, on Frankfurt, symbol G6A, and the OTCQB, symbol GARWF. For more information, visit us at goldenarrowresources.com or call Sean at 778-686-0135.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Ross Kay. Ross, Josh in Toronto asked, I'm reading that some homes in January are already seeing 30 or 40 or more offers registered on them, and I'm wondering if this means the spring will see record sales again.
Well, record sales, if you listen to our previous section, Jim, you're going to see, well, what else new can they come up with counting? Now, I'll tell you, 2021 sales are going to be comparable to 2020 sales. Okay? In other words, for sale by owners are going to be equal share of the market. New homes may increase somewhat in certain parts of the country, but we're maybe looking at an extra, maybe 20 to 30,000 units. So that's going to skew the number by 20 to 30,000. Okay? Realtors have come into the practice of what's called underlisting properties. It's unethical, it's illegal, and if any other business in Canada did it, they would find themselves in front of the Competition Bureau. But that's not happening because your provincial regulators are not enforcing the Provincial Trading Act. Every single province in Canada has a Provincial Trading Act that states that you cannot issue false, misleading, or deceptive advertising. Obviously, if you're listing a home for $200,000 or $100,000 less, then you know that the seller would be willing to accept for it. That is a deceptive ad. In other words, if you offered that price, the seller would not sell you the house. The seller is looking to get hundreds of thousands of dollars more than that. This is deceptive advertising. That used to be enforced by the regulators. Up until around 2013, it was fully enforced. Real estate agents across Canada were scared of underlisting a property, marketing a property that way, because the regulator would charge them. Somehow, between 2013 to 2015, when the housing market was still relatively in a negative territory, regulators pulled back. The boards of directors of the regulatory bodies changed. Korea had its talking points. Provincial trading groups had their talking points. And anyways, long story short, the practice is now being done across the country. It is unethical. It is against the law, and it is because it is a deceptive form of advertising. So this is why you're seeing these number of offers on these properties. If you list a $700,000 property at $500,000, that means you open that property up to the dreams of a whole larger group of home buyers. I mean, if I'm out there looking at scouring, Realtor.ca every day as a home buyer, and I've got a typical real estate agent who's clueless to what's going on, and I'm looking to spend $500,000. And all of a sudden I see a house. And this house is a house that, gee, I've never seen one this nice. Because normally that house is listed at $700,000. I go look at it. My real estate agents, yeah, that's a great deal, but let's go look at it. They take you and show it to you. Now, remember, folks, there's a lot of innocent home buyers out here who are going through this process because they don't know how the system works. The real estate agents aren't telling them how the system works. The regulators aren't protecting them. The banks are working with this scam. The CMHC isn't speaking up to disclose what's going on. These poor people are out there in an environment that is totally adversarial to their best interests. So I'm at $500,000. I see this house. Wow. I never saw a house that nice. That's right, folks, because it's really a $700,000 house. But what the listing realtor wants to have happen is they want a whole bunch of those lower priced buyers to put offers on the property. So that buyer who's looking at 500 says, oh, you know something? They're real estate. Hey, if you really want this house, you got to go up you got to go with your best offer, because the offers are going to be crazy on this one. You just got to give it your one shot. Oh, really? I don't want, yeah. I mean, we're going to $530,000. That's only $100 more a month. Could you go $100 more a month to get this beautiful home? You know how much better it is than all the other homes you've seen? You've been looking now for 6 months. Oh, okay, I'll do an offer. Now, they're not the only young family or the only buyers in a lower price category that are fooled by this. There are dozens of them, and they all bring offers. Then you also have buyers in the $600,000 and $700,000 price category, who are saying, well, hey, this is a good property. It's $700,000. Yeah, obviously, there's something going on here. If we can buy this house for $700,000, we're going to buy it because it's better than the others we're looking at, even though it's listed at $500,000. They go with their offer. Now, of course, the exact same talking points, salesmanship, that went on the $500,000 buyer goes in the $600,000 and the $700,000 buyer. So when their limit was $700,000, all of a sudden the real estate agent's talking them into offering an extra $50,000 or $100,000. Hey, $100,000 is only an extra $400 a month. This house is going to appreciate more than that. Come on, it's a great deal. Buyers believe them and they put their offer in. Now they're at $800,000. What happens is that the buyer who was actually the buyer for the home in that price category learned that there were 20, 30, or 40 offers on the property. They become so panicked, so paranoid that they're going to lose out to this opportunity that they go with a ridiculous price in their own. All of those other 29, 39, 49 offers, the only purpose of those offers was to make the actual home buyer pay a higher price. It is unethical. It is wrong. It is deceptive advertising. It is something that you can't do in a used car in Ontario, but you can do it with a used home. You can't use these same techniques except on the single biggest purchase on a family's life. And then everybody says, Ross, how do housing bubbles happen? Why does house price acceleration at the end of a housing bubble go so rapidly? This is why. Because right now, you look out, there's no homes for sale. As I told you in the previous section, there are less than 85,000 unique existing homes listed for sale on cooperative listing services across Canada today. When you look out that, there's nothing. You're going to spend $500,000. You look out, wow, I found a gem. You're going to spend $600,000. Wow, I found a gem. Because someone took a $750,000 house and listed it for $500,000. The buyer who's going to buy it was the same buyer who was going to pay it if it was listed properly. The only difference is that buyer wouldn't have been misled that there were 29 or 39 other buyers with active offers on the property. They don't tell you that 80% of the offers on the property, the seller would reject anyways because they're too low. Because those people actually can't qualify for a mortgage large enough to buy the property. They're actually buyers from a lower price point category who are misled through the process, deceived, and used as pawns in a game to make the final buyer of the home pay the peak price. It's unethical. You should be calling your provincial regulator. If I was a buyer and I had an offer that I was informed was more than 6 offers. So if I put an offer on a property that I thought was a good deal, and I find out there's more than 6 offers, I'm going to the provincial regulator and I'm filing a complaint. But because clearly the property was underlisted under deceptive advertising practice, and I was used. They used my time, they used my emotions, they used the emotions of my spouse, the emotions of my family. I may have actually spent money to get a pre-offer home inspection done on the property. I may have spent hundreds of dollars researching whether or not this house was an okay house to buy, only to never to be told that I was used as a pawn. I was just simply a tool for the real estate industry to turn around and burn. If someone can debate what I have just explained, if someone can disprove what I have just told you is the truth, they're welcome to call Jim and get on the show, and I encourage Jim to have him on the show, or her on the show, next week.
We'll have more with Ross Kay right after this.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications, patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Ross Kay. A listener in BC asks, Mr. Kay is continually saying the BC Real Estate Association has been publishing misleading or what he calls deceptive housing market stats created to benefit sellers and disenfranchise buyers. Why is no one speaking up for buyers in British Columbia?
This one will be a quick one, Jim. The reason why no one is speaking up for buyers is because the entire real estate industry in North America, this is not just Canada, this is North America, is structured to get sellers the highest price possible. There is not a single piece of legislation, there is not a single requirement, there is nothing in the Code of Ethics, there is nothing in the provincial trading legislation, there is no government body who's out there asking that buyers receive equal treatment to sellers. There has not been a new real estate stat created since 2002. That means all real estate stats were created before 2002. That means all real estate stats were legally created, to get sellers the highest price possible. Nothing more, nothing less. Now, your bank economists, who are generally homeowners themselves, believed this Kool-Aid when they bought their own home. They have sold this Kool-Aid in every single report that they have issued for their bank since the day became employed with the bank. Every realtor in Canada who has joined organized real estate after 2002 is clueless to what I'm even talking about. Those before 2002 had to be active on their MLS systems in order to understand what I'm saying. Every single statistic produced by organized real estate in North America is designed for one purpose: get sellers the highest price possible. I explained to you in the last session how the offer system in Canada is used to use home buyers like they're pawns to drive the price up for the seller. The registry, every single thing, even rules that were enacted supposedly to protect buyers, were actually reverse engineered to protect and get sellers the highest price possible. Why? Because real estate agents get more commission the higher price you buy a home from. Folks, in Canada today, this is how it works. You buy a house. As the home buyer, you pay all the commission. The commission is included in the purchase price. In other words, if Joe and Sue want $500,000 for their house, and the real estate agent wants 5%, that means you have to pay $525,000. But there's also GST that has to be paid. So you have to pay $525,000 plus GST or HST on the $25,000. Now, when you sit down and you do the math, you say, well, okay, I understand that. But that's not how it works. It works in reverse. They add all of these things into the purchase price to start out with. In other words, when you put an offer in on a house, this is what you're actually doing. You're giving a certain amount of money to the seller for the house. You're giving a certain amount of money to the real estate offices, and then called commission. You're also paying commission on the commission. Oh, and it gets better. You're actually paying GST or HST on the commission on the selling price. There is no paperwork supplied to a buyer in Canada, in any province, where this is clearly laid out. In other words, this is how much the seller, in writing, this is how much the seller gets, this is how much the real estate agents get, this is how much money the government gets in HST. No real estate board in Canada. There's not a province in Canada where those numbers are disclosed as a mandatory requirement in a purchase and sale agreement. And as a matter of fact, organized real estate across Canada works tirelessly each and every year to ensure those numbers never happen. I recently looked at the Alberta Real Estate Association's latest contract. That contract doesn't even mention commission. It has a vague statement that the seller will fulfill their obligations of another contract. But it doesn't say that they're paying fees or commissions. It just says that they'll fulfill their other terms of the contract. In other words, the buyer really doesn't know what he's paying. Why? There is no home buyer in Canada who would knowingly put $40,000 on a mortgage to pay the real estate brokers. There is no reasonable homeowner in Canada, home buyer in Canada, who would believe it makes sense to have a $40,000 larger mortgage because they have a real estate agent. One of the benefits of buying a for sale by owner is that you should be deducting the commissions off the price. Oh, the Canadian Real Estate Association is happy because now for sale by owners are on the MLS. And now they get to bury the commission in the asking price. Is there another good or service in Canada where you can bury the commissions in the asking price? Did you know that in no province in Canada does a home buyer get a full disclosure on how much commission they're paying? They may know they may think they know what they're paying their buyer's rep, but they never know what they're paying the seller's rep. Because the seller's rep says, oh no, the seller's paying the commission. This is how it goes. The seller's rep tells the seller that the buyer pays the commission. The buyer's rep tells the buyer that the seller pays commission. The truth of the matter is this. Every home that has been purchased in Canada with the use of a real estate sales rep, in history, the buyer pays the commission. It's included in the purchase price that they pay. It's buried. It's secret. All of the taxes are included. And not only that, folks, your land transfer tax is paid. You're paying land transfer tax on the HST, on the commission on the selling price. That's right. You are wasting thousands of dollars paying land transfer tax on a real estate broker's commission. Why? Because organized real estate is such a low entry-level profession. The number of sales produced by the average agent is so low that they need to do anything they can to get a paycheck. And that means the industry goes to the lowest common denominator. And to do that, they can't say, oh, look, I've only sold one house in 3 years, but I'm worth $40,000. No consumer in Canada would do that. Nobody with a right mind would do that. Everything that is done in the buying and selling real estate in Canada as of today's date is solely to get the seller the highest price possible. If you are not dealing with an advisor, okay? This is self-serving when I talk this way. Your advisor could be your parents, Your advisor could be your lawyer. Your advisor could be your accountant. I don't care who your advisor is, but it can't be an agent, because there is not a single publication by an agent anywhere that just told you what I told you. Do you really want to pay land transfer tax on the GST, on the commission, that's on the commission, that's on the purchase price, and have that included in your mortgage and be paying for it for the next 25 years? If that's okay with you, you really don't need my services at all.
Ross, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thanks for having me on, Jim.
My guest has been home ownership consultant Ross Kay from thewealthyhomeowner.ca. If you have any questions for Ross or for any of our other guests, you can send them to info@housestreet.com. Find us on Twitter @HouseStreet. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HouseStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HouseStreet.com radio is a production of House Street Media Incorporated.